Laughter echoed through the school hallway like thunder. "Hey, loser, can't you even talk right?" The words hit 16-year-old Jason Miller like knives. His books fell from his hands, scattering across the floor as the bullies walked away, laughing. Jason just stood there, silent, shaking, humiliated. For years, Jason had lived with a speech disorder. He stuttered every time he tried to speak. Every presentation, every classroom answer, every attempt to say something meaningful ended with laughter. Teachers pitied him, students mocked him, and eventually, Jason stopped speaking altogether. At home, his mother would gently hold his face and whisper, "Jason, your voice matters. One day, the world will listen." But Jason didn't believe her. How could he, when the world only saw him as a joke? One rainy afternoon, Jason sat alone behind the school gym, his head buried in his hands. That's when Mr. Wilson, the old janitor, found him. "You've got fire in your eyes, kid," he said. Jason frowned. "No, sir, I've got fear." Mr. Wilson smiled. "Same thing, just waiting to be used differently." That one line changed everything. Jason started spending hours in the school library not to escape, but to learn. He began reading about communication, public speaking, psychology, anything that could help him understand how people connect through words. He watched speeches online, studying how confidence sounded. Then, every night when the world slept, he stood in front of the mirror and practiced speaking. At first, his stutter was painful to hear. He stumbled, froze, and almost quit 100 times. But every time he wanted to give up, he remembered Mr. Wilson's words. Fear and fire, they're the same thing. So he kept going. Jason joined the school debate club. The first time he stood on stage, the audience laughed before he even spoke. His voice trembled. His words came out broken, but he didn't run away. He finished the speech, shaky, imperfect, but finished. When he walked off the stage, his heart was pounding, but for the first time in his life, he felt something new. Pride. Months turned into years. Jason practiced relentlessly. He recorded his voice, corrected himself, learned rhythm, tone, breathing, until one day, something magical happened. The stutter was still there, but now it had rhythm, emotion, power. After high school, Jason worked odd jobs during the day and practiced speaking at open mic events at night. People started to notice him, not for his flaws, but for his authenticity. "You don't just speak," one woman told him after a speech, tears in her eyes. "You make people feel." At 25, Jason got invited to a local youth conference. His topic, the power of not giving up. When he stepped onto that stage, he wasn't the scared boy anymore. His voice shook at first, but the crowd leaned in. They weren't laughing. They were listening, truly listening. By the end of his speech, the entire auditorium was on its feet, cheering. The boy who once couldn't say a single sentence without stuttering had just inspired hundreds with his imperfect, powerful, real voice. From there, everything changed. His speech went viral online. Within months, Jason was traveling across the U.S. on schools, prisons, corporations, sharing his story. "They called me nothing," he'd tell them, "but I learned something they did in my IT. Your voice isn't IT weak just because it shakes." Within a few years, Jason became one of the most sought-after motivational speakers in America. His raw, honest storytelling touched millions. TV shows invited him, podcasts featured him, and he even wrote a best-selling book, Speak Anyway. But the moment that defined him came years later, when he was invited back to his old high school. The same hallway, the same walls where they once mocked him. As he stood at the front of the gym, facing a crowd of students, teachers, and even some of his former bullies, Jason smiled. He took a deep breath, looked out at the sea of faces, and began to speak, not perfectly, but powerfully. "When I was your age," he said, his voice calm and steady, "I thought silence was safer. I thought if I stayed quiet, no one could hurt me. But silence hurts more than laughter, because silence kills your belief. And I refused to die that way." The room was silent, not from judgment, but from awe. Jason continued, If you've ever been told you're nothing, remember, those are just echoes of people who quit on themselves. Don't let their noise drown out your voice. When he finished, the gym erupted in applause. Tears streamed down faces, teachers, bullies, students, all standing, clapping, cheering. The boy who once couldn't speak without fear now spoke with a fire that moved hearts. Outside, as Jason walked to his car, Mr. Wilson, now retired but still smiling, stood waiting. "Told you, kid," he said softly. "That fire just needed direction." Jason laughed, eyes wet. "Guess you were right, old man." And as he drove away, city lights reflecting off his windshield, Jason smiled to himself. He wasn't the boy they mocked anymore. He was the man everyone listened to.